All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Viaka podcast, the show where we sit down with founders, investors, and builders with ties to the MENA region who are making an impact on the global startup scene. My guest today is Khaled Kteily, founder and CEO of Legacy, a company that's changing how men think about fertility and family planning. From Harvard to the World Economic Forum to building one of the top startups in men's health, Khaled's journey is as inspiring as it's unconventional. Khaled, man, welcome to the podcast.
Ramsey, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here and looking forward to talking about sperm.
Yeah, of course, the Sperm King himself. I see with the background here. I mean, you've leaned all in. This
We have
character is just
we
gonna.
have a beautiful vial of sperm. We have some sperm floating around. What you can't see actually, there's a huge neon sign that says "Save Our Sperm" right above my monitor. I wish I could show you
What do you
guys.
what do you wear for
Yeah.
Halloween? I mean, like,
Well, actually, for my birthday, one of my friends, another MENA founder, actually, Nadira Salim, got me a sweater that says "Sperm King" embroidered on it in a really nice,
of
elegant. It's
course.
like a dark green sweater, elegant gold. So
Well, for
I've leaned
somebody,
in.
we still haven't even introduced you, so we don't even like anybody who's who's listening to this is probably like, what the hell are these guys about? Let's segue into that. Tell me a
Sure,
bit about what you're
sure.
doing, who you are, what is Legacy. Maybe that
Very
can kind of
good.
clear the air a little bit.
I love it. Well, I'll start it off. So, Khaled Kteily, I'm the founder and CEO of Legacy. We were founded out of the Harvard Innovation Labs to kind of change this idea that fertility is just a women's issue. So, we're all taught from a very young age. Women, in particular, get beaten over the head about their biological clock, about their life timeline, whereas we are just as men off gallivanting and doing whatever it is, and not giving a second thought to our own path to becoming a parent. But over the last 5, 6 years, we've learned that, well, guess what? Sperm counts are massively on the decline. As we get older, we become less and less fertile, and that actually the male fertility is just as important as the female fertility for having a healthy baby. And so, in that world, it actually makes sense for guys to be thinking about this at a much earlier age, thinking about testing or freezing their sperm. But no guy wants to go into a clinic and go through that process. I've done it, by the way. It's, to paint you a picture, they hand you a small cup, they take you to a small room, black leather couch in the corner, circular table in the middle. They've got porn magazines that, of course, you don't want to touch. You can turn the TV on, but if you do, it's showing the last scene from the last guy watching the last video before you. You're in the room imagining every bare, hairy ass that has been around there. And in my case, they told me I had a 10-minute time limit because they were running late
Mhm.
that day. And they're like, sir, if you don't
Mhm.
mind, producing the sample a little
Quick.
more quickly. And then you're waiting for your results for a week and you're imagining yourself being infertile and just all these things. And so it turns out men don't want to go through the experience that I do. And so we developed a very beautiful, elegant legacy kit that you can get shipped to your house. You produce a sample from home when you're ready to get started. You mail it back to our lab. We do a sperm test and we freeze your sperm. And we're now the leading company in the male fertility space.
Wow, very interesting, very cool.
Yeah.
How did you? I mean, how did you get into this? You didn't study. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
assuming you
I
didn't
just,
study
I love
biology.
sperm,
You weren't
man.
like,
I
yeah,
just love sperm.
you were a
From a very
teenager.
young age, I always knew that I wanted to be in the sperm world.
No, how did you? I mean, if you were studying biology and you
Yeah,
saw you saw
yeah,
a chart going from the top
yeah,
down to the right,
yeah,
you were like, okay, I need to save the world. That wasn't you. What
yeah.
what what happened exactly?
I was, it's funny. My dad's an entrepreneur, but I never thought of myself as the kind of guy who would go off to start his own thing. Like, the people who, they don't play well with managers or like they hate working for other people or they always knew they were going to be an entrepreneur. That wasn't me. It's just,
Hmm.
I had a scare probably about a decade ago by this point where I spilled some very hot coffees and teas all over my lap and I got second degree burns. So second degree burns is pretty bad. It took about a month. I was hospitalized. Took me about a month and a half to be able to wear normal pants again. It ripped the skin clean off my thighs. It was very, very
Oh
painful.
wow, wow.
An experience like that kind of makes you think, well, that could have been a lot worse. And so that's actually what inspired me to go to a fertility clinic to go and test and freeze my sperm because I'm thinking to myself, well, alhamdulillah that nothing permanent happened, and let me just make sure I can have kids and that everything's good.
Hmm.
And so the more I started researching this topic and learning about it. So obviously I had my own clinic experience, which was weird and awkward and uncomfortable. But
Hmm.
the more I started researching it, the more it became clear, well, actually, hey, sperm counts are down 50% over the last 40 years. That's pretty significant. We now
Yeah, I
know
got
that the older a man is when he's trying to have kids, and especially if he's 40 plus, he's much more likely to have a kid born with autism, with congenital issues like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. I mean, the list goes on. And so it makes sense that someone should actually be thinking about their sperm at a much younger age. So at a certain point, I kind of was like, this is just such a good idea. And it just needs to be done. And the world is moving in this direction. And if I don't do it, someone else will. And so at a certain point, I
Okay.
said, YOLO. You kind
Okay.
of just gotta do it. And yeah.
How did you?
Mm,
I mean, were you doing like? Did you get into entrepreneurship? You were like, "This
yeah.
is a company that I need to build," or you knew of the product that you wanted to build, or how did you
Mhm.
get? How did you stumble into this? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure where you are today, years
Yeah.
down the line, is not how it started.
Yeah. Oh, interestingly, I mean, the company hasn't changed dramatically since the initial idea.
Hmm.
Um, I'm just thinking what really pushed me over the edge to do it was I spent a couple of years working at the World Economic Forum, and I was
Hmm.
living in Geneva, Switzerland, and one of the initiatives that I worked on was called the 100 Top Arab Startups. And it was meant to highlight some of the best startups in the country. And actually, you're in Tunis. I remember the founders of Next Protein. They were actually
Hmm.
were one of the top 100, and I think they actually just closed a big
Okay.
round, which was really cool
Yes,
to
they
see.
were just in the news recently. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. So congratulations to the
Yeah.
founders. I was impressed even at the time. And I'm, working with all these amazing founders, and we were introducing them at the time to the king of Jordan and the king of Spain and the global head of McKinsey and, the ministers of commerce in all of their countries. We actually did a lot of work with the Tunisian president and prime minister's office. And I just
Hmm.
had this moment of, well, I am convening, but I want to be the convened. And I think that moment of clarity is like, well, why am I organizing the 100 Arab startups? Why am I not one of them? And I think that's what
Ah.
kind of
Okay.
pushed me over and said, you know what? I just need to do this. And it was very scary and very uncertain. And I called it, the leap of faith because you're jumping into the unknown. But the
Hmm.
crazy thing is you look around the world and every single thing in our world, every single thing in the life that we live was just someone just did it. Right? Like you can just do things, and the
Someone jumped.
YC community talks about this a little bit, and has been recent, this whole concept of you can just do things, but it's true, right? 7, 8 years
Mm.
ago, the concept of a mail-in kit for semen analysis and sperm cryopreservation just didn't really exist. And now it does. And
Hmm.
now it's a big company. You can just do things. And so it was very scary, but I had to bridge that gap mentally and just take the leap of faith and do it.
Okay. And I mean, did you
Mm.
you were getting into entrepreneurship, or you were decided you were like, I have to start a company, or did you just think of the product first? Like,
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
the thought?
The concept came first, which is it's such a no-brainer to freeze your sperm when you are young and healthy,
Hmm.
given all the risks and things that might happen to you as you get older. And given that 99% of men either will have a family or will think seriously about having a family. And so it was more that just from a business perspective, it was so self-evident that this would become a large industry. And I think that's what kind of pushed me to actually do it.
Were there no players at the time at all?
Really not. The whole concept of transporting sperm was
Hmm.
popularized in the horse semen world because
Yes,
the
for
sperm of
breeding horses.
award-winning, race-winning stallions
Mm. Is worth.
exactly can actually go for, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's where the
Hmm.
whole concept began. And
Hmm.
so we were the first team to say, well, let's productize this because the technology
Hmm.
existed, right? And clinics would, on occasion, try to use something like this, but no one had ever productized it and turned it into a nationwide concept before.
Very interesting. Was it? Did you start B2C? I think today you're doing other things, partnerships. You're doing things with the U.S. Navy. I think you started, I think, as consumer.
Yeah.
How did things grow from that to
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, the business started 100% direct to consumer. We followed what I think it was Andreessen Horowitz who popularized the term B to, what was it? B to C to B. Yeah, that's right. B to C to B, which is you start your business consumer facing. So you start off D to C.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
build a brand with your first 1,000 customers, you prove the product works, you prove that people want it, and then you use that early traction to begin developing relationships with businesses. Because a business is not going to work with you, like an insurance company is not going to work with you when you've only had 50 customers. So the only
Hmm.
way you can get your first 1,000 is actually by scaling through D2C. That's much faster. You have much more control over it. And then once you've done that, then you can turn around into B2B. So my business is almost 50-50 B2B, D2C at this point. It's the only reason we survived the last few years, which were,
Hmm.
venture funding dried up, the economy became very uncertain, D2C became more expensive and more difficult to pull off. So the reason we're even still alive is because we had these B2B contracts with insurance companies, with the military, with employers, with clinics, that actually helped us. These are just sticky contracts. And so these are more consistent sources
Hmm.
of revenue.
I'm just wondering also more about the business model. How does it work? So
Yeah.
you get paid for like
Mhm.
the kit, or how does it work
Mhm.
afterwards? After the kit, I'm sure there's something after
Yeah,
after the kit itself.
correct. Because you got to have a recurring revenue stream. So
Of course,
you
SaaS,
order
but
the,
I'm assuming it's.
it's
I'm
sperm,
just gonna
sperm
guess.
as a
I'm just gonna
service.
guess.
Yeah.
I, I was gonna guess it's SaaS, but like forever. Is it?
Basically, yes. So,
It never quits.
ba-
All right, SaaS work.
basically, basically. So the way it works is you order a kit online, we mail it to your house. The kit costs $295. So you produce a
Hmm.
sperm sample from home, you mail it back to our lab, it gets to our lab the following morning. We'll then do a semen analysis, and then we'll do sperm cryopreservation. Sperm cryopreservation, depending on which plan you choose, costs anywhere from
Hmm.
$75 to $245 a year. So
Okay. What are
basically,
some plans? How do they differ?
that so if you're doing just a pure annual plan, it's $245 a year or about $20 a month.
Hmm.
But you can prepay for certain plans that effectively get you a pretty significant discount. About two-thirds of our revenue comes from sperm freezing or sperm cryopreservation,
Hmm.
because once you freeze your sperm, typically you don't want to destroy it. And actually, the older you get, the more your sperm quality has dropped. So that frozen sperm actually becomes more valuable to you with every passing year. Because I first froze my sperm 10 years ago, and let me tell you, that is some top tier sperm, right? I'm now
Of
10
course.
years older. My sperm quality is 10 years lower. My DNA damage in my sperm has gone up over the last 10 years.
Hmm.
So actually, assuming I want to have kids in the next few years, my plan is to use that frozen sperm from 10 years ago. So if you think about how the value of this product changes over time, the longer it's been frozen, the more valuable it is to you. And that's where the business model is really interesting because you have very high lifetime values. And that's basically
Hmm.
why we were able to raise the $50 million in venture capital that we did.
Very cool. What are the plans? How are the plans? I'm just curious. Like you said, there are different types of plans. So what do they include?
So we do for today, for tomorrow, forever. And we kind of like the
Hmm.
nomenclature. Forever is you're prepaying for 25 years of storage. So, the types of people who might want that are people who are starting cancer treatment maybe at a younger age, where they know that that chemotherapy is going to permanently impair their fertility. We work a lot with the LGBTQ community who just inherently are going to have a more complex fertility journey, right? And so they're like, hey, I'm 20, I may not want to have kids till I'm 40, but I know that I'm going to have to go through, maybe a surrogate.
Hmm.
Um, and so those are kind of the longer term plans. The for tomorrow is a 5-year plan that's renewable. So this is common for, let's say, a man who's getting a vasectomy, saying, listen, I'm pretty sure I don't want kids, but if you're telling me for
Just in
$100
case.
a year, I can preserve my optionality without having to go through a reversal, great. We have a lot of men who we call kind of the proactive biohacker type, right? Who are
Hmm.
optimizing their health or optimizing their longevity, right? And so they're like, yeah, great.
Like
I'm
one
going to freeze my
percent
sperm.
here, 2% here, 3% here.
Exactly, exactly. And then the for today plan is really intended for now, which is you're just testing your sperm. So you're not getting it frozen. You just want to understand, and you're doing that either because you're thinking about a fertility process, because you're in the
Mhm.
middle of a fertility process, or because your semen analysis is actually a biomarker for your health, and it actually helps. It's a really interesting insight. It's called the sixth biomarker, which is your sperm. Because if you are fertile or subfertile or infertile, that's actually very informative for how well your body is performing. Because it takes a lot of parts of the body to produce the sperm and to produce the semen.
What can you tell us about where the future
Mm.
is going for sperm, like in terms of where it
Yeah.
was and where it's going?
Yeah. So sperm is interestingly, so most healthcare dollars really go towards men and men's health, right? Like we spend a lot of time and money fixing erectile dysfunction, and we have not dedicated those same resources to figuring out, women's arousal levels. We spend a lot of time investing in the penis, right? We have not spent as much time investing in the vagina. And sperm and fertility is actually a very funny inverse, where actually we have spent all of our research dollars and time on understanding female fertility and eggs and hormones and pregnancy and LMH and LH and AMH and so on. We have spent very little time understanding sperm. A lot of male infertility is idiopathic. We don't really understand why it's happening. And so we've actually funded research over the years, probably about $400,000 or $500,000 worth, studying everything from how are microplastics in our semen affecting our ability to conceive and have healthy kids, to more basic science, like a concept called sperm capacitation, which studies how well is a sperm able to penetrate an egg. And there's just like so much we don't know. And so I think where the world is going is there's now a scientific consensus that, male fertility really matters. There's a scientific consensus that infertility rates are on the rise, and therefore we
Hmm.
need to better understand fertility on both sides. So I expect to see more research dollars and more attention paid to, why does sperm work and why does sperm not work? And we have a tendency, by the way, and this is so funny because it feels almost like a gendered statement. The egg is one of the most complex cells in the human body. The sperm is the simplest cell in the human body. And so it feels kind of representative of us as genders. But because there's so many sperm, right, and because you really only need one sperm, we kind of think of it as that's all fine. But we're learning more and more that actually things like DNA damage in the sperm and the epigenetics of the sperm, or male fertility are just, also an important part of the equation. So a lot more attention paid to sperm. And I guarantee you have not had the word sperm, penis, and vagina said anywhere near this many times on anything you've ever recorded ever.
You really must have a lot of data on all of these, on all this, like from around the world. Do you have any
Yeah,
like interesting data from, let's say,
yeah,
Western world, Eastern world?
yeah.
What are some
Ooh,
things that might be interesting? Yeah,
yes. I have so
spicy.
many. So I will start by saying we have one of the largest data sets in the world on sperm because
Okay,
it is a nascent industry, and we are just getting so many patients month in and month out, and we track
exactly.
a
The
lot
data is
of.
just
It's super interesting. Like from a research perspective, we have started just churning out research that we hope to be publishing over the next 1 or 2 years. So that's really cool. That's really interesting. Our chief medical officer, Dr. Rami Abu Ghaida, has also done an amazing job of kind of overseeing a lot of this work and research over the past 5 years. And so let's start by talking about the Middle East. One of my earliest advisors was a professor at Yale called Marcia Inhorn, who specialized in fertility in the Middle East. Turns out the Arab world has the highest rate of male infertility in the world. And the
that's
reasons for
crazy.
this is super interesting. The reason for this, and actually, Dr. Faqih, a Lebanese fertility specialist who is in the UAE, built a very successful practice, Faqih IVF, was saying that he sees so many male infertility patients more than anywhere else in the world, which kind of reinforced this idea that Professor Inhorn had suggested. So some of the reasons are ergile or hookah, whatever you want to call it.
Really?
Very bad for your body. Some of it is just obesity. We have a lot of diabetes and pre-diabetes. Ozempic, I don't know if it's made its way quite to the Arab world quite yet.
I don't think so. No.
There's a legacy of wars. I mean, Lebanon had a 15-year civil war. The Palestinians are being bombed on a near daily basis. Many countries in the region have had some sort of, think about Syria, right? And use of chemical weapons and how that's going to affect fertility for many years to come. Palestinians in Gaza are going to face many challenges in the years to come. So part of the reason for the infertility is also just the chemical exposure through various wars and conflicts. And the last reason, I mean, there's many other reasons, but the last interesting reason is a concept called consanguinity. So in French, sang is blood. So consanguinity is the intermingling of basically extended family, common in the Arab world, common in India, common in certain parts of the world. And the thing is, if you and your cousin marry, which historically in parts of the world like the Arab world and like in India, is done to preserve influence and resources and kind of keep things, keep power consolidated, the genetic impact is actually quite low for your kids. However, if you do it over multiple generations, then that's actually where you start to see infertility and other genetic conditions emerging, because now you're having a gene pool that is kind of more constricted over multiple generations. And so actually kind of one of the hidden secrets is many of the most powerful and successful families in the Middle East actually have significant issues around fertility. And you'll hear stories about, a family that rents out an entire wing of a prominent hospital so that nobody sees that they're going through these types of fertility treatments. So in the Arab world, there's a very interesting nuance that is particularly true around the male infertility, which I just found super interesting.
Is there similar? So the things that you're doing today in the U.S., is there something similar to it in the Middle East? Are there big players doing something similar? What's
the U.S. market is still fairly nascent, right? Like this is a pretty novel concept. Fertility clinics have really only been adopting this over the past couple of years. And so we'll hear, a doctor at the Cleveland Clinic was just saying, hey, we just sent over a bunch of patients your way for XYZ reasons. NYU Langone or some clinics in New York say, look, our wait times are too long for a semen analysis. We know that we can turn it around very quickly with you guys, and so we'll send them over to you. But this wouldn't have happened 2 or 3 years ago because, it takes time for the medical community to get comfortable with the new concept. So the rest of the world is even further behind. There are a couple of other, I would say, credible players, but typically pre-seed or seed, pretty early stage. There just isn't the acceptance. The US is also pretty kind of risk tolerant and fairly innovative relative to the rest of the world. And so that helps. Now, ultimately, we plan to be licensing this product to the rest of the world, to be growing the market internationally. What we do could be done in other parts of the world using this same legacy kit that we've gone through all these validations and publications around. And so that's the eventual plan for us.
So how would it work? So if you license it to another company and then they would use the same kit, but they would give it like their company name, or is that how it works?
There's a few different ways. I mean, Legacy's built a pretty meaningful brand. What you would do is you would license the kit, the technology, and the digital experience. So they could use their own labs for the testing. They could use their own cryo storage facilities for the freezing, but they would still have access for their patients to the end-to-end process, the end-to-end digital experience, as well as all the insights that we're able to give. So, we are able to give each patient 4 to 5 personalized recommendations for them based on their semen analysis results, based on their lifestyle, and that we can do because of our data set.
Okay. And legacy today, because I'm trying to understand how are you just like the company that does the analysis? Do you own?
Yeah, we do it all.
Do you partner with plants?
We vertically integrated very early on. And
was that the idea from the beginning, or?
Not really. It made more sense. From a margins perspective, you have better margins when you own it, but more importantly, from a quality perspective, right? Because if I'm doing the testing myself and we're facing an issue, I can go to my lab, or I can send my scientific team to go to the lab, figure it out, and turn this around within a day. if you have a partner, you have to set up a time, set up a meeting, bring in their people, but someone's on vacation and, oh, we can't skip. And suddenly it takes 2 weeks to figure out a fairly simple issue. So you actually have much better control over the end-to-end process when you do it yourself.
Okay. And in terms of investors, I mean, I think you've named names like
Yeah.
Justin Bieber and DJ Khaled as investors. How did these come out? How did they happen?
Um, there was a moment in time that was, I would say, 2020 to 2021, where the market was
Okay.
running so hot and there was so much FOMO. And, right around COVID, we were growing like crazy because of this whole shift to at-home healthcare. And we were raising,
Mm-hmm.
as we always have, from these phenomenal investors like Bain Capital Ventures and Firstmark
Mm-hmm.
and Y Combinator and Section 32 and so on and so forth. And celebrities wanted a piece of the action. And so with each
Mm-hmm.
celebrity, it worked differently. But the Weeknd's manager is actually a Lebanese Canadian guy called Salim. He goes by Sal. And right. And so he hears about this. He's like, hey, I want in. The Weeknd wants in. How can we make this happen? Justin Bieber's manager was actually one of our investors through a fund called TQ Ventures, excellent fund. And so he said, listen, I think that Justin's interested. Let me connect the dots and make this happen. And so, Orlando Bloom, I had a conversation with where he's talking about, his interest in the startup space and investing. And so everyone came in for different reasons. But I think that moment in time where celebrities were really investing in startups, I think, because I get asked all the time, hey, bro, can you intro me to Justin Bieber? Right. And it's kind of hard to explain, but like it really, I don't think it exists anymore. You'll occasionally hear about celebrities coming in, but it is not at all a common thing. And I don't know that we could have replicated what we did then today.
Of course, and I'm sure once you
Yeah.
have one or two names, I mean, it just makes it easier for second, third, fourth name, right?
Yeah, right. Because the DJ Khaled hears that Justin Bieber's in. His manager gets more comfortable with it,
Yeah,
and it kind of is kind of self perpetuating. We brought on some who have preferred to remain anonymous, but we've had a lot of kind of bigger name
of course.
investors, celebrities that have used the service. Fortune 50 CEOs, about a third of them have actually used the service. Some have invested. So, we've also gotten pockets of capital from people who like being associated with the celebrities too. They love telling their buddies, "Oh yeah, me and JB, I call him Justin. We co-invested on this deal, very exciting sperm startup." People are funny like that.
Are there other players in the field that are doing similar with what you're doing?
Yeah, there's a few other players. We were the first in the space. We're the largest in the space. But my personal view on it is you actually want more competition. There are other players in the space that are helping grow the space. And so I would much rather have 51% of a much larger pie than 80% of a much smaller pie. And this is a little
Mm.
counterintuitive, I think, for many founders because you don't like competition. And
Hmm.
early on, we had this one competitor who raised more money than us, faster than us, at higher valuations than us. It drove us nuts. But ultimately, that
Hmm.
company
Of
ended up
course.
getting shut down. But what they did is they helped grow the market, right? Because it's another team that is also day in and day out working hard to grow the space.
They're educating on their side, you're educating on your side. So by the time that they were out, the
Exactly.
market was fully
Exactly.
educated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah. And
what
then when
happened? Why
someone
why did
decides
they
they want
shut
to
down?
use a product, hmm, oh, this was a very interesting story. So there is a very successful men's health company called Roman, now Row. Very impressive founder, Zach Ritano, or he's the CEO. They have a few co-founders, and they hit on the concept. So when the patent for, I think it was Viagra, it could have been Cialis, but one of the erectile dysfunction medications, um, the patent expired, and they could start launching generics. So two companies, Roman and Hims, and Hims is a Palestinian American founder,
Mm.
Andrew Dudum,
Oh yeah.
also
Okay.
great guy, and yeah, he's a wonderful family as well. And both of those companies emerged very quickly, started to sell erectile dysfunction medication through direct to consumer tactics. They, in many ways, pioneered that whole concept. They grew very quickly. They're
Hmm.
both multi-billion-dollar companies, very successful. So both of them were kind of sniffing around the male fertility space because it felt like an obvious adjacency for them or extension for them. Both were kind of interested in buying us at various times. I mean, so Roman was very actively looking, and we were just frankly not interested in selling because the opportunity here is so big. And I'd only been running the company for about 3 years. And so there's a very credible argument to be made. It's like, hey, 3 years, you get a payday, you go live on a beach, in Tunis for the rest of your life. But that's not like that. Tunis gets me excited, don't get me wrong, but the concept of sitting and doing nothing, does not get me excited at all. I love what I do. I love what I'm building. I love my team. I love my customers. Like the prospect of giving that up and selling it to someone else just didn't sit right with me. And so anyway, so we were, I don't know if they thought we were playing coy, but actually we weren't really interested. They ended up buying our competitor, this company called Daddy, for just shy, I think ultimately came out to about 90 something million dollars. And so which was a great outcome for Daddy and their investors, for a very short period of time. But then what happened is shortly thereafter, the concept of GLP-1s emerged. And companies like Rowan and him said, you know what, we don't want to be touching all these adjacencies, right? So I'm not going to spend my time focusing on, this new male fertility company we acquired. And instead, I want to go after this multi-billion-dollar opportunity, kind of with these weight loss drugs like Ozempic and these semaglutides. And so they just shut down Roman. So they stopped operating it, and that happened, I think, a year or two after the acquisition.
So they were pretty. I mean, they were too big to to really care. It wasn't like it wasn't like a startup that's kind of
Daddy's revenue at that point as a percentage of Roman's must have been less than 1%.
Okay, exactly. That's what I mean. So yeah. Where did the name the name Legacy?
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I came across, I was like, oh, that's such a good name.
It's a good name. I wish I had a good story. It just
like, was it like an agency, or you came up with it? And you were just like
Khaled's brain. My team used to make fun of me because I would dream things all the time, and I would wake up in the morning and be like, guys, we need to do this. And I think the name came to me in a similar way. And I'm trying so hard to remember if someone in my life had maybe like suggested the name. And if so, and you're watching or you're listening, please let me know, because I'm not giving you credit right now. I'm giving myself credit. So I think it was actually just me. But fun fact, that same company, Daddy, in the early days, actually, they were kind of a fast follower of ours. So they actually launched an identical brand, same color scheme, same company values, same type of product, same name. They actually launched as Legacy and then sent us basically a cease and desist.
A cease and desist.
They claimed the trademark for the name, which was crazy.
Wow.
Because I, wanting to save $1,000 on legal bills, chose not to trademark the name. And actually, the reason we were able, I want to give the biggest shout out of all time to Ramzi Jabir in Dubai. And Ramzi was my very first customer. And trademark law, not to get too bogged in the details, but there's two types of trademarks. There's intent to use, which is I will be using it. And then use in commerce, which means I've used it. Use in commerce supersedes intent to use. And long story short, we ended up in a trademark dispute with this company. And we were able to prove, because I had records of Ramzi Jabir buying one of our products at a date that was earlier than Daddy, this company had filed their intent to use. And so we were able, we lawyered up. We went really hard on the legal side. We went like Arab style, big guns. We showed them why we have a legacy of war in our. So we won the trademark, and they rebranded to what I always thought was an absolutely terrible name, which was Daddy.
It relates to what they're doing, but I don't think it's
like.
But
do
Legacy,
you really want to give Daddy your sperm?
Yeah.
That's right, Namzi. That's right.
Oh no. But yes, Legacy. I mean, first time I came across the name, I was like, oh man, just so good. So
yeah.
All right. Where are you guys today? What's Legacy doing today?
So Series B, we've raised about 50 million. We're handling and freezing more sperm than anyone in the country. I think some of the partnerships that were exciting for us is so we're covered by insurance across the country. We recently went live with the military, so actually with the DoD. We are now authorized to test and freeze the sperm of any active duty person in the military. Obviously, you think about people who are going to be deployed abroad. There's obviously risk to them of what might happen, and my perspective has always been that everyone deserves the right to someday have a family or to have a chance at having a family. And, the prospect of someone losing that ability because they're defending their country, right, has always not sat right with me. And so that's kind of a big partnership or big new development. And then we have a few things in the works, which it's too early to share. I wish I could. We have some pretty exciting initiatives coming out in the next few months that I think will titillate the world of male fertility.
What can you share? My question
Absolutely
is like,
nothing,
what's
Ramsey.
what's the plan? Where nothing,
The
more
plan
sperm
the
banks, more
plan
cryo, more
the
plants,
plan has
more
always
freezing,
been.
more labs.
Yes, yeah. So the simple plan is just more, right? Do it at a global scale, right? License this out to
Hmm.
different countries, continue to
Hmm.
launch kind of adjacent products, have more sophisticated analyses. Even on our cryo storage, we do something called multi-site storage. So we will actually take a sperm sample, divide it in two, and store it in two different locations. Right. And so like that's
Hmm.
kind of one of these advanced operational things that we've been able to do. So part of it is simply just more because we found something that works, and then it is really just about scaling it. The goal has always been, how do you take a company like Legacy public? The ticker, of course, would be SPRM.
Of course. Has to be. You think of the ticker as soon as you start the company, of course. Are there any plans to
Yeah.
like if there were other markets? Are there or is just US too big for you to even think
Mhm.
about anything else right
Yeah.
now? Or what's your thought?
The US is definitely the focus for the next couple of years. It's a large market. And also it's, unlike the Middle East, which is fragmented, right? You have access to
Hmm.
330 or so million people, right? All in one go versus even Europe, right? It's a similar number of people, but across so many different countries and regulatory
Hmm.
frameworks. So
And
US is
languages
definitely the focus for now. Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, you're going to deal with, Flemish and Dutch and
and
French
French.
and the hatred. Why, Ramsey? What do you have
I'm
against the
joking.
French?
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Right. Whereas, so US definitely the focus. I would love to expand this to the Arab world. I think there's a need for it, and obviously through my work at the World Economic Forum and just, my
Hmm.
own contacts, we have quite a few in the region. So we've already identified which fertility clinics we would work with and how we would launch it. So definitely something that is kind of top of mind
Do
for
you
us as well.
visit? Do you visit like the UAE or Saudi or what
Yeah,
they're
pretty
doing
often.
today? And do they have
I
plans
mean,
with it?
I saw the UAE for the first time, I want to say around the year 2000, back when it was basically
Hmm.
just Sheikh Zayed Road. And
Yeah.
I've been most years since then. And I've been able to watch it kind of grow and develop over the last, 25 years, which has been pretty extraordinary. So I'm in the region pretty often. And so it's also one of the reasons why it would be reasonably logical to expand the company there.
Good, good. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have people that you have conversations with, partners that
Ramsey, have
are
you frozen
pretty
your sperm yet?
keen. I have not. I have not thought I needed to. What should I look for? Why would I need to freeze my sperm? Give me,
Do you have
convince
any,
me.
do you have any kids that you know of?
No, I do not.
Are you married?
No, I'm not single.
Are you
I'm
underage
33.
and available? Wow, ladies, please take
Yes,
note.
single, ready to mingle.
Uh,
But why would I? Why would I
because
convince me?
every year you get older, your sperm quality gets worse. So make
Yes,
sure
but I
that
look
your
at
sperm
everyone
is
around
good.
me, and
Yeah,
everybody's fine.
that's what you think. Actually, 1 in 6 couples face infertility. Half the time, it's from the male partner if it's a heterosexual relationship. It's much more common than you think. Every year you get older, DNA damage builds up in your sperm that increases the likelihood that you and your future partner would have a miscarriage or would face issues or would have a child born with autism. Every single year you get older. It's happening right now.
I believe you, but I also think you're just trying to sell me a subscription.
Our forever package, very good for you, I think.
But I will give
Very
you
good
family
deal
friends
for you.
discount. Khaled, I think that's about it. Thanks a lot for
Yeah,
for coming
my
on.
pleasure.
I
My
appreciate it.
pleasure. It was very
Thanks a
fun.
lot for your time. See ya. Bye bye.